All right, folks, it's come to my attention that maybe not a lot of people use a tool like this or even know what it's called. And this is probably my second favorite tool in the garden. And I'll demonstrate a little bit today about how we use it. Give you a close-up here. This is what we call a scuffle hoe. It's meant to scuffle along the ground. I've used chopping hoes, stirrup hoes, a few other things, and I do like a good chopping hoe, probably my first favorite tool. I'll show you maybe at some other point, but this is a little more unique, and you use it a little bit differently than a chopping hoe. I've got a 6-foot T handle, which is important because I'm a little over 6 foot tall, and I don't like to be bent over unless I'm just all the way on the ground. So we're going to use our 6-foot T handle scuffle hoe in the garden today to do some weeding and maybe even some bed prep. All right, so we're in a newly created garden, as in this kind of used a lasagna layering style this year with mulch, compost, and some hay material. And things are settling in pretty good, and I think this would be a great garden in the next year or two. I'm giving you kind of a bird's eye view on the scuffle hoe. A lot of great weeds, or what a lot of people might call weeds in here. The plantain has grown so graciously, so full, and we consume lots of plantain, and so do our animals, and just all sorts of good weeds. So I'm really not a person to even weed the garden on a standard basis. And what you can see here are we had some tomato plants that we are going to do a little weeding, just because if you don't do anything, it seems the plant pressure gets a little intense. Even though most of the time they grow bigger, with a little bit of that plant pressure, it's not necessarily exactly what we're going for. You can see little pepper plants in here, some cayenne peppers. We grow both for food and medicine. And this area has been scuffle hoed. And then I laid some of the dead material to kind of help me see the small pepper plants. So what we're going to do is change this row of tomatoes, which on camera I don't think you can barely tell, into probably what you're more used to seeing in someone's garden. As you can see, a tomato plant with no hoeing, and then how easily, in just a few seconds, we were able to clear out from around it a little bit. So there's still a lot of green in here, and that's exactly the way I like my gardens. And we'll mow and we'll chop and drop and we'll feed the animals, and we'll use as all the weeds as kind of a self-mulch on the bare soil. But I left that last clip in real time so you could see how long it took me to weed these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tomato plants. And so now we've got some nice healthy growth that is real visible. And sometimes I come through and, if it's grass especially, I may do a little extra pull. But as you can see, the tomato plants, and we just had some heavy rains, so they're a little funked up, but a little twisted up. But they're more visible, and I really love to lay all the clippings and kind of green material right around the plant, because these are things that are using soil nutrients, and they can be replenished by letting them stay in the same spot and kind of die back in the same spot. So we've got some nice tomato plants coming in. All right, one more row of tomatoes. Oh, we got our first flower. We're gonna get this knocked back just a little bit so it stays really visible, and we can check on the plants as needed for different pests and things like that. I'll say the younger you can catch the growth, the easier the Scuffle Hoe is to use. It really makes sense to do it when little seedlings are just coming out. This is clearly a spot that we've let grow up a little bit beyond efficient Scuffle Hoe use. So I'm working a little bit harder for it, but that's okay. All right, so we could leave this row alone for a while, and this will die down and be a lot easier to tell what's going on. And if needed, we just kind of come through once a week or so and knock some things back. I want to show you, if you do have, like, let's say a particularly grassy clump, and sometimes when you're just using the hoe across it, that grass is sliding over, and you might need to sharpen your hoe, and we'll talk about that real quick. But there's also another method, and that's just meaning that you're going to, rather than scuffling the ground, you can take your spike, dig it in, and dig that grass out all the way to the roots, just like that. And then you can kind of dress it up a little bit. So you can dig and pull, or you can move along the ground, and probably various other things. So we're in some sections of the garden that are being developed. We have the slightly older spots and the slightly newer spots, and we've got a lot of good mycelium growth, mushrooms popping up, wine caps and others. And of course, the way I like my gardens to be is for the chickweed to cover the plants, or to cover the rows all winter long. And there's a whole video just on chickweed and why I love it so much and why I use it like this. And I know it probably looks messy on camera, but it is an absolutely lovely plant to have around all winter long. And we just plant directly in it. As you can see, garlic and other things come in too. If you're wondering about the yellow flowers, these are basically wild radishes in the mustard family. So we have edibility there, more so for the animals than ourselves, but it also provides fertility as we decompose the organic matter back into the soil. So on a new section here, where you've used mulch and compost to build up a brand new bed and you're letting it sit, kind of letting everything settle, we have a really easy way to use the Scuffle Hoe, and I'm just going to kind of one hand this so you can see. If I wanted to say plant beans here or something, I could just come down with one row and kind of do a little more vigorous than I'm doing it. But you can take and notch your row, and look at all that mycelium. Oh, it's excellent. But you can take and notch your row and then plant your beans in, and then of course you're coming back with the Scuffle Hoe and just knocking that side in and then knocking that side in. And you've weeded anything you needed to, you've dug out the center, and you've covered it back up, so you've planted your beans or something similar without bending over at all. And when it comes to the chickweed rows, it couldn't be simpler to come in here, and I normally just do this by hand. But as you can see, look how easy the chickweed just kind of mats up and clears you right out, and you have the most beautiful moist planting soil that you could, because it's had living roots in it, living roots of the chickweed and other plants all winter. And it's been covered, the soil's been protected and covered, just so many great things. So we can easily come in here and take this chickweed down once it heats up and it starts to die off. And you have cranesbill in here too. But the by the summertime, the chickweed just dies right off and gives you an easy spot to plant. All right, so as promised, a quick concept on sharpening. I'll use a rough file, sometimes called a bastard file. Not using the curved end, I'm using the flat end. Sometimes they're flat on both sides. I wouldn't be picky about a file. You know, file's a file. Some of them are going to take longer and be more precise, and some of them are going to grind material really quickly. And sometimes you need either or. So yeah, a few good files are great to have. The important concept here is that there's a angle put on the blade by the manufacturer, and you just want to keep that angle. They've chosen that angle for a reason. And if we are coming in here, you know, flat up against it, we're obviously going to be dulling the hoe. If we're not, if we're too, you know, flat against it in this direction, we're not even sharpening the hoe. So you got to match that angle. And once you do match that angle, you just kind of have to eyeball it. You can sit here and work that angle. And it's a little awkward to go around all four sides. Just got to kind of hold it however you hold it, or clamp it would be best. But just make sure you're matching that angle and kind of applying pressure and grinding this front point to a cutting edge. So let's do a little bit here. If it's really rough, I don't mind to go both directions. At the very end, when I'm really trying to get this fine edge on it, I'm just going to go away from my cutting edge to help create that sharpness. Oh, it's getting a lot better already. The more often you do this, the easier it is. So if you could do it daily or even regularly after use, you will never have a dull hoe and you can work more efficiently. So there you have it. That's my quick explanation of the Scuffle Hoe and how I use it. Definitely a worthy tool for any no-till or organic gardener. Yeah, so check it out. I did have to special order the 6-foot T-handle, so I got this online. I could not find a local store that carried them. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. I'll be producing a lot more videos in the future, so let me know what you'd like to see.